Welcome to the Q Podcast.
Q is about conversation.
If we're really concerned about ending poverty, we've got to be more concerned about creating justice.
Our cultural products as Christians need to both defy and resonate with the culture.
But God's doing amazing things. His church is expanding. His church is growing.
It's not what's the purpose of my life, it's what is the purpose that's been assigned.
Stay curious, think well, advance good. This is Q.
Welcome to a special edition of the Q Podcast, recording from my home, where I think a lot of us are spending most of our time. And I'm excited to talk to you today about the current moment we're in. I know that this is a heavy moment. I know that there is a lot going on that is change. There's a lot that creates fear. There's a lot that can kind of make you feel paralyzed, and you're not quite sure what's happening or where this is going. And at moments like this is where we adapt. This is where we still rely on God more than ever. And that's where we as Christians actually know that we have hope. We know that God is in control, that we don't need to have fear, that as His children, we actually can look forward in hope of how He's turning something that obviously is creating a lot of suffering and creating a lot of change and creating a lot of hardship. He's going to turn that for good, and that is our outlook. That is what we put our hope in. That's what we rely on. We don't just rely on what we can see. We actually rely on faith, which is having hope for something that you can't see. And so I want to just encourage you today that we're all in this together. The one great thing that's coming out of this is we're all having to walk through the same journey now. We're all on the same page. We're all having to work and operate in new circumstances, many of us from home, many people with children at home. Maybe they're college age, maybe they're very young, maybe they're teenaged. I know I have a very young kindergartner at home, and I have 3 high schoolers, 2 of which special needs children, all kinds of just new dynamics that we aren't used to doing on a daily basis, especially when it comes to education. And so we're all in this together, and therefore we can learn from one another. We can encourage one another. It's an equal ground situation. And I think that's a beautiful thing, not just for us as Christians and people of faith, but even for us in relating to our neighbors and relating to just all of the human population. This one moment is bringing us together, and there's an opportunity in that. Now, I want to just speak to those of you who've been a part of this Q community for so many years. You know, for 14 years, we've tried to create an environment every year that allows us to come together, that allows us to connect, that allows us to understand the cultural context, the climate of the moment that we're walking through, and then to know how to lead, how to be convicted about our faith, but then to courageously step out and lead. And I can't imagine a more important moment for us to do that than right now. And of course, the circumstances mean that we can't be together in the room together. We can't sit across tables. We can't be in the same type of environment we've typically come to appreciate in April of every year, called the Q Conference. But we made a decision, along with so many other places, that this event wasn't going to be able to take place in the same way it always has, but instead of canceling, we were going to move forward, that we're actually going to double down on this moment, believing that God's called us into this time, that we want to understand this cultural moment. It's critical to understand it. Things have changed so quickly. Society's changing. There's a ton of questions. There's a lot of new questions that none of us would have anticipated just 6 months ago. And so we want to shift the focus of what's happening with Q and create an event now that's a virtual summit, which means not only can those who've always been a part of the Q event and the 2,000 leaders that we're planning to be with us this year in Nashville can join in, but now people all over the world can join in, leaders in your communities, in your churches, people on your staff, people that you care about, just your friends and other families can now come together and just be a part of a uniting moment where for 2 days, we're curating content that's going to be focused on how do we think about this cultural moment. It won't be 2 days just focused on coronavirus. It's going to be 2 days focused on what does this mean for the church? What does this mean for economics? What does it mean for us to think about sustainable living? How do we build our immunity system? How do we fight pandemics? How do we think about depression and mental health in light of this? And what is the new role for the church in light of changing circumstances? We're coming together on Sunday mornings can no longer be taken as assumed. And now we're in a new place where discipleship matters. We're training up leaders. We're understanding God's word and what it says to us, knowing how to equip and prepare our families. How do we disciple our children? There are so many new questions that this moment is creating. And the hope that I see in it for all of us is it's a giant reset. It's literally like a complete reset for how we are going to live, how we're going to operate together, how we're going to get back to some old practices that maybe we thought we had innovated past and in a modern time had moved on from, and now we're going to relearn. We're going to talk about some old ideas that need to be brushed off and need to be revisited as we try to imagine what does it look like to be human and how do we flourish best in this moment. I would say the questions haven't stopped. The questions have grown. And Q stands for questions. And we want to create space where we're asking the most relevant questions. And so I want to just encourage you as you think about the weeks ahead that you know that you can look forward to April 22nd and 23rd, that there's going to be a significant gathering of Christians coming together, many sitting in their homes, many gathering their teenagers into the room, maybe a friend or two, maybe a colleague or two, or maybe we're all just watching from our own place. But there's going to be 2 days of unity. There's going to be 2 days where we're praying together, we're learning together, we're thinking together, we're chatting with one another, we're sharing with one another, we're having Q&As with some of the best experts on some of these topics so that we're getting filled up with new ideas and a new imagination for how we get to pioneer a new way forward. And that's really my perspective, is that when this type of change happens that is this significant, it is an opportunity for us to lead and pioneer new ways forward. And so instead of looking at this moment as negative, as looking at it as a problem, which of course we're all going to be confronted with the new challenges of living in this way, I want us as Christians to be those people of hope, those people of faith who are saying to God, God, what are you trying to birth right now? What is it that you're trying to bring into the world that could not have come into the world had we not stopped, had we not paused, had we not reflected, had we not sat back and said, God, what is it that you want to make new again? And what is it that you're making new in this moment? And so I want to encourage you as leaders in your own communities to bring this mentality to the people that you lead, to your families, to the people that you love, that we can trust God, that He's in control. But number two, that He actually wants us to be creative. He wants us to imagine with Him, what is He trying to make new right now? What is it that actually needed to go away? What is it that needed to happen in the death of this moment where culture had to stop? And some things actually had to go away. A lot of our entertainment went away. A lot of our sports went away, right? A lot of just the casual ways in which many times I would say we distract ourselves from the most meaningful things of life. Those are gone. And now we sit with ourselves. We sit with our books. We sit with our Bibles. We sit with our closest friends and community. And we start to learn together again. And so I want to just encourage you that not only are we experiencing this, but our neighbors need it as well. Our friends need it. And so let's just be those people, as you've always been in this community, that are thinking creatively, that are leading this type of change, and that in your own heart are asking God for the courage to lead forward in this moment. And that may not mean you know today what that looks like, but I can tell you for today what it means is let's spend time with God. Let's be present with those that we're with. And let's just ask God to cultivate anew in us a vision for what He's up to impart to us what He sees coming in the future so that we can step into that. That's what we've always wanted to do in our life. And I know through all the work we've tried to do with Q is just let's step into whatever it is that God is doing. And I think we're going to do that together as we walk through this spring together. And so for those of you who can join us April 22nd and 23rd for the Q Virtual Summit, I hope you'll jump in with us. And not just you, but will you invite some more friends, people all over the world, people that you've worked with in the past, people that you know care about what is Christian faithfulness going to look like for the season ahead. We're going to have that conversation together, and you're going to meet a lot of other people. It may be virtually, but you're going to feel connected. You're going to feel united. You're going to feel like the body of Christ is alive and well, and we're moving forward. And so I'm excited to be a part of that with you. And let's take advantage of a unique moment where we had to pause, we had to stop, we had to reflect, and we had to listen to what God is doing and what He's saying. And I think when we do that, we're going to all find that we're so much better off because of it. So I hope you have a wonderful week. We look forward to continuing this learning, these conversations, and thank you for being a part of this community, and thank you for leading right where you've been called.